Alright guys, welcome back again. So once again we're in the garage as usual, as it is so far. Blah, 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 blah. A lot of as's there, but yeah, I know it's a lot of being in the garage, but pretty much work, and this is what I've been doing. But anyway, today we're going to be doing some more fueling upgrades. By more fueling upgrades, we're going to be putting our twin CP3 kit in. We're also going to put a fuel distribution block in. We're going to add a race valve or a fuel plug to our fuel rail to get rid of our, this is a relief valve. We're going to get rid of that, so we're going to run all the rail pressure. We're going to get rid of this factory fuel filter housing, and the reason we're going to do that is because inevitably we are going to run a fast or a air dog. I haven't decided which, but we're going to get rid of that factory fuel filter housing first because it's pretty simple to do. Alright guys, so the fuel filter housing's out. Kind of fucked up. I definitely should have drained that into a drain pan. This line was holding me up, and I'm pretty sure that whoever owned this before put this on. I think normally you just have the spout here. But it's definitely, if you're going to keep a factory fuel housing, that's a good idea. Put a piece of tubing there so you can just drain the water out. But I should have drained that whole thing before I took it all apart. I completely neglected that and made a mess, which you can see by all the pads. But anyway, so this fuel filter housing has 3 bolts, which is bolted on here, right? So you have to unbolt that because there's this hidden bolt, which I completely forgot about. So you got to undo this, take it out, and I just cut the factory feed line. And the reason I did that was because I'm going to completely get rid of that when I run the line from the faster air dog. So then you'll have this. If you don't want to use that distribution block, you don't have to. You could just keep this. That's your return. So I mean, really, honestly, if you wanted to do it on the cheap, say, you could cut it here, and then you still have the little places for your pigtails for your wire harness. That's another thing. There's a wire harness that goes here where these indents are, is a zip tie. You have to cut those off to pull that out to get to that bolt. So that's our fuel filter housing out. Put our distribution block in. We're going to put it in loose because that's how they tell you to put it in. Put it in loose so you can put your fuel connections on, like your banjo bolts and all that. But I don't have new banjo bolts. I have to get those. So we'll put it in loosely, so all we got to do is snug everything up. And then we'll continue with our twin fueler install. We're going to put a Fleece Performance Engineering fuel distribution block. Now what this is here's your feed from your factory lift pump. And we have dual feeds to both of our CP3 pumps. Rather than just teeing off the line, it provides you with 2 nice feeds. It makes everything real nice. Here we have our aux sensor. This will be our fuel pressure sensor for a gauge we're going to put in the truck. Our factory water and fuel sensor will go in here. There's another aux sensor port, factory return. That's a banjo bolt hole. As you can see, it's straight through. There's one on the other side. We'll use the factory bolts, and then the aux return. The aux returns this line off of this CP3 pump. So the factory fuel return will take care of the stock CP3, stock placement CP3. My water and fuel sensor is here, but my water and fuel pigtail is only that long, which is only this long, so it won't reach. Right, way out there. Looking on 12 here, it looks like the physical pigtail is longer. So I don't know if that's a difference between a 10 and a 12, and maybe that distribution block, you gotta do something different. I don't know. Try and remember to call Fleece tomorrow and see. I don't know that a water and fuel sensor is that big a deal. I think if you don't have a place for it, you can actually just plug the sensor in and let it hang out, in which case we got blocked port. I don't know, but that's something to look at, something I didn't know. So, like I said, I'll try and remember to find some information on that, but that was certainly unexpected. Here's our twin CP3 setup. Here's a block for the factory rail pressure sensor, and here's the bracketry. And normally the pulley isn't on, the pump's not on the brackets aren't together. This was all on the gray truck, so when I took it off, I kind of left it somewhat together. Took it off as easiest way possible. So if you're doing this yourself, you'll have to piece a couple things together. ATS on their website and with the kit provides very nice detailed instructions. So it's not that big a deal. You'll figure it out. I did, and it's not that hard. Idler pulley, that'll go on here for our serpentine belt. Coolant hose, fancy coolant hose, go up over the CP3. Another fuel line, our ATS fuel, twin fueler controller. A lot of people find these controllers to be finicky and to fail, so a lot of people choose to go with a fish dual CP3 controller. I know that's a very popular option. Fleece Performance has also come out with a splitter kit, so they take care of all that control of the CP3s using the factory ECM. So that's something, if you're thinking about doing that, you really need to talk to your custom tuner and talk to them about it. It's not something you can do with like a Mini Max or something like a Smarty. You need custom tuning. So get with your tuner, see if that's a good option for you. Apparently it'll eliminate any problems you might have with these. Another thing that comes with it is this little extension harness. All that is when we move our rail pressure sensor over to here, you'll be able to reach using, that's the extended factory harness. But while we're over at the table, here's something else that'll be pretty, see that's a future video right there. We're gonna talk about that later, and we'll make some cool noises with this truck. So, sorry if I sound like a little kid, but it's all about the noise. The short go of it is that there is 3 bolts that go in here. So you might want to check those. 2 of these are through holes. And this one's a blind hole, so you want to make sure you vacuum that out, or just make sure it's cleaned out. The other is there's 3 through bolts. It goes through 3 of these. I can't remember if it's these 2 and this one, or But anyway, somewhere along here there's 3 through bolts. This bracketry is not going to be coming on and off, so I'm going to put a little blue Loctite on everything just because I don't want shit coming loose. And I'm going to tell you now, we're not going to run the wiring for these twin pumps, or this twin pump setup tonight, because I want to try and make everything as clean as we can. I got to look into how to get rid of some wiring and all that, but needless to say, we got a little bit of a clusterfuck now. So I want to kind of get shit sorted out to where it's going to go and route everything so it at least looks a little better than what it does now. So we're going to get to it and get this thing physically mounted. On the pump and undid them from before. I capped them off. So this goes here, the feed line. All right. We have this return, which goes up here. So, ooh, that's not gonna work. Boom. That return goes there, but we're reusing these transmission lines, which bolt here. So I might have to come up with a bracket. Like I said, we're reusing them. But let me hook that line up for now, and then we'll hook the other fuel line stuff up. All right, so right now I have our return from our second pump and our feed for our second pump in loosely. Now it looks as though this transmission cooler line bracket, because it was bolted here, will hit. Now there's another bolt hole here, so I might be able to just jam it back or slide it back, but we have a bracket we have to bolt there. So couple things we have here. This bracket will get bolted. This. So if you remember when we were putting the rail back in, and you know what, I'll show a clip. All right, so right now I have our return from our second pump and our feed for our second pump in loosely. Now it looks as though this transmission cooler line bracket, because it was bolted here, will hit. Now there's another bolt hole here, so I might be able to just jam it back or slide it back, but we have a bracket we have to bolt there. So a couple things we have here. This bracket will get bolted. This. So if you remember when we were putting the rail back in, and you know what, I'll show a clip. Our fitting for our dual CP3 setup for the dual feed rail installed. When we're putting the rail back in, we put in that fitting. So this will come around, go in that fitting where our old rail pressure sensor was. Feed this block. That block will feed here to our new CP3 pump. So I got to put our rail pressure fitting in here, and then we can hook this up. We can mount this with these 2 bolts, and then hook this up, and our fuel system will be a lot closer to being complete. Alright, so I have the block, and like I said, I left the bracket on in the vise with some soft jaws so we don't mar it up. I lubricated the threads a little with diesel fuel. So thread that in there. Right. Now ATS tells you to torque it to, I believe it's like 52, 55, 50 foot-pounds, somewhere in there. I did that the last time, and this happened. So as you can see, I had a little bit of a leak. I don't know, maybe my torque wrench was off, maybe it was ATS. So that being said, I actually ended up messing up the fitting, trying to retorque it in the, well, I messed up the sensor trying to retorque it in the truck. So what I ended up doing is I called Dodge, and apparently the sensor from Dodge is like $400. Well, that was kind of like bullshit, because I looked at it on the line and it was a lot cheaper. So what I did was I called the local Peterbilt shop, truck shop. I called them to see if they had it. Gave them the engine number on the valve cover, and they had it. It's like $200. Yes, you can get it online for even cheaper than that, but if you're in a pinch, call your local truck service stop or parts place. They're liable to have a lot of these Cummins parts because they use them in a lot of shit. So, and this rail pressure sensor might be the same for all Cummins. Who knows? But anyway, it's a Bosch part, so I'm just going to tighten the fuck out of it. Like I said, you got to be careful. I mean, I would do what ATS says, 52 foot-pounds. I had a bad experience, so I don't want to do that. So I'm just going to go kind of until it stops moving, not crank on it. Like I'm just going to, it's an 1 1/16 wrench, so when it feels like it's tight, I'm going to stop. Alright guys, so last night we got the twin fueler installed, we got our fuel line ran, we got a rail pressure sensor installed. I'm not going to do any of the wiring in the video, but it's fairly simple. There's an intercept wire that plugs into the wire that goes to the FCA on, it's the electrical connection on the factory CP3. It'll plug into that, and then the other ports will plug into your factory CP3 and your twin CP3, the top Duramax pump here. And then there's a little extension harness for your rail pressure sensor, so that little sensor there can reach over here. So, like I said, I'm not going to do the electrical. It also has a positive and a negative battery terminal, and the instructions tell you to hook it to positive all the time. It won't draw down the battery, but it helps when you're starting the truck. Apparently it won't. It'll just acts right, I guess. But anyhow, we got a little different belt setup that we're going to use, and I'll cover that in a later video because I haven't received it yet. But I will put the belt on now, so that way you can see the fitment, because you actually have to put the belt on a little different than normal. And the first time I did it, it took me a little bit because I had to figure some shit out and all that. Also, and we'll do this after we do the belt, we're going to change this out while this is all apart. This is the rail pressure relief valve. We're going to put a race plug in there, which I have. As you can see, this one's from XDP. It's just a plug, and basically, since we now have a twin fueler, we're going to be commanding more fuel than the factory application. It keeps that from popping, and when that pops open, you drain all your rail, no more power. So anyway, we're going to pop that out, and that should be it for this video. So no radiator really helps, so I got all kinds of room. But even doing the factory belt, it's a pain in the ass. Two trouble areas that I find are between the balancer and the fan pulley. And also, you're going to have the fan in the way, so that makes it a pain in the deck as well. So hopefully this makes it a little easier for you. The other thing is sliding it in here for the tensioner. That can be a pain. So if you're doing it by yourself, just take your time. You're going to get frustrated. I mean, it just happens. You got to find what works out best for you. But now, that being said, having a twin fueler kit, what you want to do is you want to run your belt completely around everything, just like you would kind of factory, right? Except for leave this idler pulley out. Don't just leave the belt, go straight down from the power steering pump from your twin fueler. So then you can take the tension off of your tensioner, kind of cock the belt and slide it over the pulley, and then release your tensioner, make sure everything's good. When I do a belt normally in the truck, I like to bump it. Oop, ringing. I like to bump the starter, a little bit, and just check it, make sure everything's copacetic. So that's how you put the belt on. Like I said, it's not really a big deal on our truck right now, but it can be a real pain in the ass when the truck's all together, especially if you're by yourself. If you got somebody with you, then you can definitely work on hold this stuff on the top while you're doing the bottom. So that's how you put the belt on. Now we're going to put that race fuel valve in. It's an 18mm wrench. All you're going to do is take it out, swap the O-ring to the other plug, lube everything up, and put it back in, and you're supposed to torque it to 50 foot-pounds. Rail plugs in, not really a big deal. Now, if you're doing this on your truck, you have to take your intake manifold off. So if you're not deleted, which if you're not deleted, you're probably not going to need it anyhow. But anyway, you got to take that all off and all that shit. Once again, XDP is where that particular plug came from. I think just about every manufacturer makes one. So get one wherever you like shopping or whoever you want from, but it's just one of those parts that everybody has. So our twin fuelers in, except for our electronics and our coolant hose, and our plugs in, and yeah, another piece of the puzzle done. We still got a lot more to do, so if you like this video, please subscribe. Add comments. I like reading the comments, and people have questions. I like trying to answer them. But we still have a turbo to put on and a 48 RE swap, just to name a couple more videos coming your way. So I'll catch you guys later. Get out in the garage and start working on your truck.